And we're back. All right. Welcome everyone. Um, I'm Joshua Colucci, and thank you for being here. Welcome to the Toys at the Table podcast. Um, this was a bit of an impromptu uh, episode. I wasn't really intending on doing one today, but you know, God has His plans and His timing, and um, He put it on my heart to get on and talk to you guys about something today. So, um, as we always like to start with, we, as in us, me and you know, across the table, having a good time reclining at the table, as the Bible says. um, this is actually something that I made, and it's a helmet fitting on what we're going to talk about today. This is a helmet of a costume I made few years ago. I mean, it was something that I built a little bit over time. It wasn't really something that um, I did all in one go. It took a little bit of time and actually a few years before I got it to kind of where I wanted it to look. Uh, and I still haven't really told you what it is. So it's based on a character I made up for a comic book called Leo. Um, the name initially came from um, the Spartan from the 300 movie, or actually, it's a historical thing, but from the Greek Spartans, Leonidas, so Leo. Um, Over time, it got shaped into something else, and I mean, it even leads to why I'm doing this show now, is because of God. So this character initially was supposed to be a designer toy. At the time, this was like peak COVID, I guess. It was like 2020, 2019. Mm, I think it was 2019. So maybe not peak COVID. It was still early COVID. And I was at the time deep into my Funko Pops obsession. And every time, I'd go to whether it was EB Games or Toys R Us or even just looking online, I was like going crazy for these things. Um, I don't know. It was just something about them, like just their collectability, the fact that they weren't too expensive if you got them right from retail, like at the store. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It got unhealthy to say the least. So um, it got to the point where I had too many. It was taking over my room. Some of you listening may know personally or of someone else that fell into this thing, or even just other items. People that get super into collecting things, whether it's you know cups or bottle caps. Like it could be anything, but for me, that's what it happened to be. And being a creative person, um, I haven't really talked too much about myself, I guess, on the show yet. But um, I like painting. I like to do painting, 3D printing, and that kind of thing. So I was trying to figure out, okay, I'm stuck with all of these bobbleheads. What do I do with them? And anyway, I started off by just for fun, drawing designs on painting them. And it got to a point where I looked at one that finished, and I don't have it anymore, but I repainted a Funko Pop of Diva and her mech. She's a character from Overwatch, and I played a little bit more at the time. And I just enjoy robots. As you can tell, I literally got a big chunky head robot here, and it does. You can actually wear it. Um, Long story short, I got into painting Funko Pops as a side hustle slash hobby. I didn't make too much money from it, but that was kind of my um, where I funneled all of my creative energy into, and I wasn't really close with God yet at that time, so that was kind of me creating my own, if you want to call it like an idol, but it was a hobby, but it was obsessive and like very intense. Anyway, um, this part at this stage, it was not COVID yet. The lockdown and stuff. It was leading up to. So maybe like 2017 was when roughly when I started doing this. And in 2019, when the lockdown and everything happened, um, people weren't buying them anymore. Like I got really really good. I figured out what materials to use. I was using, instead of just using Dollarama dollar store paints or brush on paints, I was using paint pens and like clear coat sprays, and I was getting into like air spray paint and stuff. I was getting really good at this, and I had like a method to the madness and stuff. And I was starting to actually charge a little bit more money. Um, and it made it started to become something that was worth my time. I was gaining a bit of a following on Instagram, and like, literally like the whole Funko community was like, watching the stuff I was creating, and I could see the rise of like interest in it. Like I was starting to get comments and messages and requests and stuff, but um, it just, yeah, once COVID hit, wallets tightened. People were going crazy fighting over toilet paper at the stores and stuff. Like it was like, it felt like Fallout, like the game Fallout 3. I never played it too much. I played maybe like 20 minutes of it so far. I don't really have a lot of time for video games anymore, so I can't get into like giant massive story games like that. But um basically it was just, their houses, people's houses became bunkers, and everyone wanted to just like, oh no, there's not enough resources or food or water, or toilet paper. So um there was no money for things like buying Funko Pops that I would paint. So that kind of stopped, went to a halt. So that's when I started to try to redirect my focus. I say I redirected my focus, but frankly, I think that happening was like a wake up call, from God. Like God orchestrated. I don't know. I can't say for sure that God did it, but He's definitely the one that's in control, and He's sovereign, and sees everything that's happening. And He is in control, right? He's on the throne of heaven, and He knows what's going on. Um, so this was kind of like the start of a wake up call, and um, so recognizing that there was something different, something was changing in the world. Um, but for me, with my small narrow focus, nothing to do with God, was thinking, okay, shoot, what am I gonna do now? Like, people aren't buying these things anymore, which was part of the purpose, was trying to get rid of the huge collection I had. Meanwhile, I didn't do the greatest job at that, because I would just buy more with the money I made from them. But um, yeah, knowing that, I had to change gears, and what I started doing was thinking of things that I could and paint for myself, or like paint my own ideas and sell those things instead, because that way it would be more fun. It would be a little more meaningful. Like I wouldn't be taking something else that someone else made, painting it, and then giving that to someone else. So instead, I thought I wanted to get into designing toys of my own, because at the time, I was into 3D printing. Also, just a little side note, like I'm sure we'll go through this, but um, I went to school for electromechanical engineering, so I wanted to get into robotics and automation. Um, all of those years spent in that type of education led me to 3D printing, and that opened up a whole new world for me. Um, I was doing a 3D modeling course at school, and it was for industrial design, so car parts. whatever. And I knew that the school had 3D printers, and one day I went to the teachers and I said, "Hey, like I know there's 3D printers in like the labs and stuff. Like, do we ever get to use those? Like, how do we do that? How do we make things to get 3D printed?" Like, and it was a simple go to the save button, save as, and save as STL, and then you just send it to the software for the 3D printer, and it just cuts it up into little slices, and that like stack up into the thing that gets printed, and that was it. Like I was hooked right from there. So I did quite a few little 3D printing projects and stuff. And my parents actually got me a 3D printer for Christmas. And I was like, yeah, man, it was very exciting time. um, so going back into the story that I was explaining, I was getting into the idea of wanting to make my own designer toys. So what I did was I drew a character that I thought represented, the things that I enjoy and the things that I want to try and make, which was, I liked robots because as a kid I was always super super into Bionicle. I still enjoy the idea of it. I don't have them anymore. Um, but I that was actually something that led me into wanting to do robotics for school and to try and pursue a career in that. Um, so I drew like this boxy, like knight shaped helmet, like a medieval knight, and a bubble person body. So that was the first iteration of the character Leo. And as I continued to, marinate on the idea of him being a character with like thoughts and feelings and personality, um, I was then thinking about the Funko Pop stuff again. I'm like, um, people liked it for the art, sure, like for whatever I painted or I'm into, but what sold the item was not just my ability to make them look nice, was the character itself, that the person that's interested in it felt and had an attachment to, right? So they had some type of sentimental value, whether it was from an anime or a movie, or video game, and when they see that character, it brings this joy or attraction to it, and that's what made people want to buy them. So I was thinking about this bubble person night helmet character, didn't have a name yet. I was like, what what is going to drive people to find any value in this? Like, what is it going to offer them that allows them to think this is something they want? um so then I thought, okay, well, and it's going to need some kind of story, right? If I just throw a bubble person in front of your face, say, "Hey, you like this?" Um, no, it's just like if somebody did that to you, and I don't know, you're going to a grocery store, and someone just says like, "Hey, you like this bubble person? Buy it for me." Like, no, you're not going to do that. Um, so I then started to think of ideas about, a story and stuff, and what happened was I made a comic book about it. Um, this my ability to draw and stuff was really delayed. In high school, I was actually in the art program there, in starting in grade 9. The high school I went to had like a regional arts program thing, and I was like, okay, well, I like art, I like math, science, whatever, but art was my thing that I was always good at and attracted and enjoyed as like one of my passions. So um sorry, I lost my train of thought. Give me a second. um I was writing a story. Went into the regional arts program. Oh yes, my art suffered. So um I actually ended up leaving it by grade 10, because my passion really got drained from it. when the thing that I enjoyed doing became work, and it became something that I had to do projects and tasks for, I lost all passion and any excitement and enjoyment of doing it anymore. So I more or less stopped drawing and painting and all of that creative stuff because of it. And it wasn't until 2017 when I started, doing the Funko Pop stuff around roughly around that time that I started doing it again. So my art, my ability to draw stopped from what I used to be able to draw in grade 9, grade 10, which wasn't amazing, but like it was okay, at least for a kid that's in grade 9 or grade 10, maybe even a little bit below that because like I don't know, I know what my drawings look like. So I was a little bit, down there, but it was the passion that drove it. And anyway, I drew this comic book during COVID. I was still in school. I was actually doing remote learning. I was doing online classes because we couldn't be in person anymore. And when I wasn't on my class times or when I wasn't working on assignments and stuff, I was doing that. So I was literally at the table at the desk upstairs in my sister's room, just writing away, drawing, doing whatever I could. I got a little tiny plug-in stylus pad from Amazon to be able to do drawings on the computer, and I got a free license to use Photoshop from my engineering program thing at school, which was great. So okay, anyway, I learned how to eventually use it, just enough to be able to draw my whole people pictures. And I anyway, long story short, finished the comic, got it printed, um, and distributed it, went to comic shops, started doing some local conventions and stuff. And you know what? It was received like surprisingly well. Like I think I made about 400 to 600 copies, and I was only expecting to sell like 100, maybe 50 to 100, just from family and friends. And because I only ordered, I think like 1 or 200 the first time. And then when I ran out so quickly because everyone was just like people that I haven't spoken to in like years, like whether it was elementary school, high school, even like siblings of people that I was friends with in school and stuff were reaching out to me like, "Oh, like you remember me?" Like, and I don't know, it just became this thing that just like friggin' like exploded, and just everyone was like, yeah, it was a fun, exciting time. uh, but again, it wasn't focused on anything specific. It was just I had this character I wanted to make toy, and it turned out to be transformed into something else that I wasn't planning it to become. So yeah, that's kind of what happened. And as time went on, and my skills got better, and people started to recognize character and started to remember me as I continued going to shows. I was introduced to cosplay, which I thought was super weird at first. I was like, why would adults dress up as these characters that you dress up as like once a year during Halloween? Like, weird. And I ended up becoming one of those weird lamos. And I made a whole costume of this Leo character. It was never 100% complete, but over the course of like 2 3 years, I just continued to do a little bit more to like kind of build up into something more visually appealing and cool looking. I don't have the rest of it here. It's in the shed right now, but so this was the helmet that I ended up making from it. And I think the lights turn on still. Oh no, batteries are dead. There are lights. They're supposed to turn blue. Oh, there's one. And yeah, so that's the character. Yeah, so that's the helmet. Um, I was planning on talking about helmet of salvation, um, but I ended up just giving you that whole rundown, which wasn't planning to do. So yeah. um, the reason why I wanted to talk about Helmet of Salvation was because um, that was something that I kind of dropped off on in the previous episode. Um, I don't know, but right now I'm feeling led to continue telling you about the creation of Leo and stuff. So maybe this will have to Helmet of Salvation may have to wait till the next episode. So we'll see where that goes. All right. So even that, let's continue then. Okay. So when I got to that point of finishing the costume and stuff, or the first iteration of the costume, um, I continued for a few years trying to work on making more comics and more issues of the character. But the difficulty of that was that there wasn't really a goal in mind. I just had a cool character idea and I just wanted to keep making cool stuff. That's just something that I've always enjoyed doing. But without that focus in mind, it was kind of fruitless. Like I would or how do you put it in an analogy version? This Leo thing is a plant. My effort and energy is water, trying to grow it. Um, but it wasn't in a pot with soil. So I'm just watering this thing and I'm just continuously drowning it. And it's not given the proper chance to grow because there's no soil. It's not rooted in anything. So um, around this time, um, around this time, I had moved out with my girlfriend, but now wife. We moved to another city, and we were renting. We were just renting in a basement, and trying to figure life and trying to seek for happiness. The same things that everyone else does. Everybody wants to be happy. Like you hear all the time, like follow your heart. You know, um, in a twisted way, you can take scripture to to do what you want it to justify your actions. And one of those things that Jesus says is, "Where your heart is, there your treasure is also." Which, sorry, actually, a twisted thing. It actually reveals the truth. And if your heart is focused on selfish things or um, things that you seek to do to benefit yourself, to inherit some kind of gain, that's where your treasure is going to be. Right. So if my treasure is not in God, my treasure is going to be where I receive when I'm investing my time and energy into this thing. So I was investing my time and energy into this comic and story and character and eventually like toys and statues, which I'll show you another time. Whatever. I'll show you. Hold on. It's on a shelf, so I'm gonna have to use my drum chair to get it. Yes, because we're here in Toys at the Table podcast. I'm gonna show you it is pretty cool. So I ended up making one of these with my friend, with my brother Tony. Um, I did put some lights in it. This is Leo in his full body form. Got some jetpack and stuff. Got a giant hammer, sword looking thing, and yeah. Anyway, so maybe we'll talk about that more another time because it's not really what I want to focus on right now. But feel free to check this stuff out. I have more creations and things like this that I've made in the past. If you feel like snooping, you can check out my Instagram. It's just at Legendary Builds. The name is called Legendary Builds, but the tag is just Legendary Builds. And I might be able to put it here. hold on 1 second. At Legend. I'm learning to use the tools on this, and I did it once, but I haven't really done it in a while. Ha! Yay! I did it. So just legendary builds on Instagram. The name is Legendary Build Studios, and now I'll take that away. And I'd like to show you my friend Tony's Instagram, dancing and comic books. Okay, I spelled that right. His name is Tony Torado. You might also know him as a Puerto Rican artist. Um, so check him out. Um, and yeah, so that was a toy that we had worked on during that time. Um, 3D printed a few. The plan was to produce them and create them made in China and stuff. And that's another story like we can talk about another time too with my friend Chris. And we'll have him on the podcast too. We, like I said in the previous episode, we've a few episodes together when I was still trying to figure out this whole thing and wasn't really motivated to like follow through and push through with until now. So we'll get to talk with him another time. Maybe save that story for another time. Okay. So yes, I had continued working on the comic, continued working on toy designs, 3D printing, and um, yes, I gained some friendships and relationships and connections with that from like going to conventions and stuff and getting um, starting to get recognized. Like I would go to, so there's a show I used to go to called Awesome Toy Show or the Awesome Toy Show, and people were starting to recognize me. Like I think it was about like 3 years roughly of like almost every single show that I would attend. They actually first started it, which was like kind of like mid COVID or whatever, when like things were starting to open up and we were allowed to attend these events. Um, no, before I don't know, I can't remember right now. And anyway, so like I was starting to recognize people starting to recognize me, especially when I started making the costume and stuff, and then it just hit a point where I hit like a plateau. And no matter how much effort, no matter how much heart and passion I pushed into this thing, it didn't go anywhere. It looked, I can tell, like from this out from the surface, or at least from the outside in, it looked like it might have just been, a lack of drive, um, motivation, laziness. But I wasn't. It was I was actively working on these things, but I just never got to an end result of any of the projects I worked on. So like, I was doing the card game, but I was also working on trying to produce a video game for it, card game, tabletop board game, um, merch. I actually did make a few sweaters, but it wasn't like a huge thing. It was just I made a couple for some of my friends and stuff. And it just, no matter what I did, it just wouldn't go anywhere. And I was just, I couldn't, I didn't know why. I had no answer for it. I was just like, what is happening? And, going back a little bit, I was even like, I was still living with my girlfriend. We were renting out the basement apartment. And like, for a little bit, I actually didn't have any work. Um, I was like, you know what? This is, if I'm ever going to try this, now's the time. And I don't know how long it was, maybe like a couple months, 2 or 3 months, when I was really trying to push this thing. And I was like, I have every day to work on this thing with the little amount of time that I had spread out over these years of working on this, and like look at the somewhat success that I thought I was having. Um, Imagine how much success there'd be if I had worked on this every day. And I actually did try that, and it just didn't. Nothing stuck. Like it just didn't. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if what I was doing was right or wrong, and it was just scatterbrained. you know, what this reminds me of is, um, I don't know if it was the story of in Babylon. Hold on, let me see if I can find this. No, that was one of them. Maybe it was the Exodus 23. I don't remember the story. I'll have to review this a little bit more, but to give you a general idea, I know there's a few stories where this happens in the Bible, and it's when God was warning either the enemy army or the attacking army, um, between, like, there was like some wars going on and stuff, and God said something along the lines of, "I will strike confusion into their horses and to their fighters, and fear into their hearts, so that when they engage in the war, they're gonna literally flop over, and they're gonna lose." Um, this is kind of what it felt like, and at the time, I didn't see it that way. I just thought it was me. I thought I was doing something wrong, and there was something wrong with me. So, like, I was very, very depressed. Um, I felt like I felt like a failure in my life. I didn't know, I didn't know what was happening, and I just continued anyway. I continued pushing through. Eventually, I did actually get a job. I found a job at a 3D printing company, which was kind of fun and cool, because I of my interest in 3D printing, and the job was too bad. It wasn't the greatest of paying, but I did definitely enjoy my time there. I need to 3D print anything cool for myself there. They had like powder 3D printers. The ones that I use are just the FDM printers, which is just like the filament where it looks like a spool of plastic and feeds into a hot end, kind of like a hot glue gun, and then it just like draws layer until you get your 3D printed thing. The powder 3D printers use like a laser to melt the top layer of powder, and then it brushes a little bit more over, lowering the bed, and then it uses layer to draw on the next layer, and then keeps lowering it. So it keeps like melting the layer of powder into itself as it floats in surrounding powder that wasn't lasered. So it's just like, yeah. Anyway, um, so yes, it wasn't going anywhere. Didn't know what was going on. Now I can see that as a situation where God actually had his hand in it, saying, "I'm not going to allow this to work." Like, come on, Josh, you're focused on nonsense. Like, I have so much that I'd love to to have you do for my kingdom, for my will, and you're wasting it on these foolish things. This, even if you go back, 2 episodes, technically episode zero, episode zero, the journey, and I was referring to one of the verses when Paul talks about, people racing, training for a race, so that they could win a crown that doesn't last. I was pursuing a crown that wouldn't last. I was hoping for, fame and money and attention, and um, I still wanted to take, if I had made money or whatever, like some grand fame thing from it, that I would share it, of course. But it was still not focused on a crown that would last, like a reward that was actually truly good, and would last forever. It was like investing my time and energy into something that you know, if when I pass away one day or something, that it's gonna, get eaten up either by other people or whatever, and it's not gonna last. It's gonna be blown into the wind one day. So, yes, I seen a moment. Now I see that moment as God's hand saying, "No, Joshua, I have so much more for you, so much better that you could be doing." And I'm sorry, but I can't. I can't allow this to work. Right? I'm. It. A time is coming where you're coming back to me. I'm bringing you to me. You're mine. Okay. You may not know it now, right? I'm not dangling this around you like a puppet, but I'm not gonna sit back and allow you to destroy yourself. Okay, I've already offered salvation to you. I'm going to bring you into a better place. I just need to wait for you to realize it on your own. I'm not going to force you to see it. Okay, you need to recognize it, right? And that goes into a little bit the fact that God um, does not interfere with free will. Okay, if in this moment God knew that this, which He did know, that this wasn't the thing He wanted for me, um, and He didn't care about free will, um, and the reason that He does is because He loves us. If He didn't love us, He would just, rip us out of whatever we're doing and, use us like a piece on a chessboard, which He doesn't do that. Okay, but um, He wanted me to realize on my own. Long story short, if I continue talking about this, I'm going to lose my train of thought again. So He didn't allow it to work, and then I decided, okay, fine, I'm going to go start working. I'm going to get a job. Worked at the 3D printing company. Um, it was great. I had an amazing experience there. I did got a little tired and bored there because it got to a point where um, I knew my full value, the potential of value that I brought to the table, kind of thing, wasn't being utilized. So I didn't feel challenged enough to continue learning and to continue expanding and trying to learn new skills. Um, so I just continued working until something just popped up. Um, During this time, I did start to lean closer into God again. Um, this is a little hard for me to talk about. Um, so there's this sense naturally in all people that we know right from wrong. I was watching. I think I was listening to a podcast today. Uh, Pretty sure it was this podcast. So there's a guy that I've been listening to recently. I think his name's Donovan. Um, he has a podcast called the Act podcast, and there was an episode where him and and a guy on his show was talking about um, when you go if you go to a if you see a murderer. Maybe this was a YouTube video. Sorry, Donovan. I can't remember if this was in your show or not. There's a lot that I look into and watch when I'm trying, just trying to marinate my brain into scripture and biblical things and sermons and stuff. So it might have been from one of those videos. Anyway, it was talking about knowing right from wrong, and if somebody is a murderer and kills somebody, it's wrong. It's not good, right? You just know it. There's just knowing. Okay, so there is some type of right and wrong um, system that even though we're unaware of it, it's there. And when we do things that are right and wrong, there's we always try to do what's good, even if it's a selfish thing, and do those things you may not know in the moment, but you realize it later. And for me, um, there was a time where there was, something that I was being very selfish, and did something I'm not very happy or proud of. And um, this was actually a moment where um, I was ready to give up God, the thought and idea of Him entirely. And it was so bad. Um, Actually, this Bible right here, this Bible right here, I actually threw this in the garbage. I was like, you know what? I've prayed to you for years. I've always believed in you. I was expecting it. I was expecting you to come through for me. And look at where my life is. Where have you been? I just where. I was so angry and frustrated, depressed. And these are things that I usually don't talk this way, but I'm just feeling led to, and I need to say it, that Satan uses these things to um, lead us into rebellion against God. Right? It leads us into saying things like, "God, where are you? Why did you do this? This is your fault." You know, like where are you when I need help? Right? It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. But guess what? It's not God's fault. He allows us free will to do whatever we decide we want to do. Okay? So when we decide to do things that are not good for us, that's not God doing it. Right? We have free will to make our own decisions, even if we believe what we're doing is good. We may not realize it in the moment, and honestly, there's no judgment from me. There's no judgment from anyone else. None of us are worthy to judge. Only God is. But instead of judging, He offers mercy. He offers grace, love, loving us so much. Right? Imagine this. Okay, this was there was a video I watched from Cliff something. Uh, let me check what his name is. Hold on. I think it was Cliff Kenchel, Knetchel, Nitchell, Ketchel, Netchel. Okay, Cliff Netchel. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it properly. It's just like Cliff, like Cliffe, and then his name Knechle. So he's like anyway, he's a great de- not debater, but like he helps to preach truth to people. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. And I was watching a video, and he gave a great, fantastic analogy, and it's something that sticks with me still today. And so imagine this story. Okay, so there's a bus driver, and on that bus, it's full of packed of kids, driving to school. And this bus driver, as a bus driver is hired to drive these children to school, so that they can grow and gain and try to become good members of society. Um, these children have parents, right? Parents that love them, and they trusted this bus driver to get them to where they need to go safe. They gave control over to this bus driver to bring them to school safely. And what happens is this bus, as the bus driver is driving, um, gets hit by another car, and it pushed off the road down a hill, and it starts going full speed down this hill. And the bus driver, is keeping the bus steady and trying to make sure the children are safe, because that's what he was hired to do. That's his job. And as he's getting further down the hill, there's two paths to take. Yeah, there's two paths to take. Okay, so one path, there's a gate. with, and on that gate there's a child sitting on it, and he doesn't. That's it. I'll make it up. There's a child sitting on the gate. To the left is a cliff. So this bus driver has two choices. One, he can save the child sitting on the bench, innocent, just doing his thing, and he can either drive off the cliff to rescue that one child, while the other ones are gonna die along with him, or drives through the gate and makes a sacrifice of one life for all those children on the bus. Okay, how do you feel when I tell you that story? Oh, thank you for telling me that. Okay, I'm kidding. Because I mean, obviously, I can't hear what you're saying, but I can tell you what I'm feeling, and you can compare with what you're feeling. But ultimately, I just want you to and what does that, what emotions and thoughts comes to mind when you hear that? You think, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Is it good that that one child died? Sorry. Yeah, is it good that the one child got hit by the bus in order to save the children on the bus, or could he just jumped off, and then all of those children with all of those parents relying on that bus driver to have brought them to school safely are now distraught, heartbroken. Okay. Now I'll continue the rest of this story. As the bus does slow down to a full stop. Okay, the parents come after they find out what happened. They're like, "Oh, thank you, bus driver. Thank you for saving my child. Oh my goodness!" Like, uh, just completely grateful and happy. But meanwhile, the bus driver is nowhere to be found. Sorry. So the parents are actually talking to the teachers, and the teacher says, "You know what? I'm sorry, ma'am. Um, but the bus driver is grieving. He's crying, right?" And then the parents are like, "Well, what do you mean?" And the teacher says that that boy that was sitting on the fence, that was his son. So the bus driver chose to sacrifice the life of his son so that all the children on the bus would survive. Those children on the bus, that's you, that's me, that's everyone in the world. That's everyone. Okay, so this is an analogy. It's meant to reveal the truth. Okay, and I'm going to tell you the truth now. You may already know what the truth is, but for those that don't, I'm going to tell you. There's that famous verse, John 3:16. Christians like to shove it down people's throats and faces, and may not even know the full truth of it, but they accept it as the truth. Anyway, John 3:16 says, God loves the world in this way, that he gave his only begotten son, so that anyone who believes in him would be saved. Let me, before I move on with that, I would just want to make sure I'm getting that right. Okay, so for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. Okay, this applies directly to this. Okay, this is meant to reveal the truth of the kind of love that God has for us. That bus driver, that he loved his son with all his heart. And he was crying and he was sad, but he also loved the kids on the bus, the children. Okay, the difference between that bus driver and God is that God is also our heavenly Father. He's our heavenly parent. Okay, we have parents. We have worldly parents. We have our mothers and fathers. We could be better to them sometimes, and we should. Um, and they love us. But what we don't know is simply because we aren't either taught this way. It's never been revealed to us to the full extent of what it really is, and maybe we'll never fully understand what it means until one day we're met with God face to face. And God loves us so much that he would go through that gate and hit his own son, personal son. so that us, the kids on the bus, would survive. And if we believed that that child on the fence was truly God's son, who he's crying over, and believed that because of that choice that we survived, that we are offered eternal life, that we'll be saved. Okay. Damn. This is getting heavy. uh, um, so anyway, uh, I want you to imagine, something good that you've done in your life. Okay. Whether it's what's the greatest thing you could possibly think that you've done in your life? Did you do a hungry person? Did you hug a stranger that was crying? Did you hold the door open for somebody at the grocery store? Um, I know that they may just seem like small acts of kindness. To somebody, they might be more. But um, think of anything, even if it's small. If you can't think of something big, think of something small. Okay. Now, I want you to think of the worst thing you've done in your life. There's a lot of bad things that we do in our lives, and what, being honest with yourself, you know what that thing is. Okay. Um, One of those things that that um, I can't say specifically just Christians, but people that believe in God, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Islamic, whether you're um, Christian, Catholic, any of that. Okay, there has to be some kind of standard that you compare your life to, and when you compare yourself to that standard, it's like a mirror. And when you look in the mirror, you can see: do I look clean? Do I look dirty? What's going on? Okay, for us, people like me, um, the standard that we follow or we compare ourselves to is the Ten Commandments, the famous Ten Commandments. And they say, "Thou shalt do this so that you are good, and if you don't, then you're bad." Um, it is a serious thing, but you know, um, those Ten Commandments are meant to be a mirror for you to compare yourself to the standard, and almost like a flashlight to reveal what's hidden in the dark. So if I never knew what the Ten Commandments were and I was just living my life, I would have no way of knowing what's good, what's bad. I would just be able to compare what I think is good and bad. When you're met with those Ten Commandments, it reveals it reveals things, and sometimes it reveals things that we don't like, and it's hard to look at because it really can sting sometimes. It can be something as small as um, you steal things from, like, you steal candy from the store. And I'll share something with you. I There was a point in time when I was still obsessed with all the Funko Pop stuff or whatever, and I went to the dollar store and they had these little pencil toppers. I'm not proud of it at all, especially now when I have that light to flash on it and realize what a terrible thing I was doing, even though it seems silly and small. They had these pencil toppers. They were like rubber things called like ushis, and they would they had like some Marvel ones, and I was like obsessed with Iron Man at the time. There was this one Iron Man I wanted to get. Anyway, uh, yeah, I took a bunch of those little blind baggies to try and like rip them open to find the Iron Man one, and I just couldn't find it. So I would go to the dollar store trying to look for these things, and eventually I found it. And by the time I got it, it was ugly. It was like hideous. Uh, and there's even like a story in that, the things that we think we want and aim for, by the time we get them, we realize it's not as great as we thought it was going to be. You even hear stories about famous celebrities and stuff that by the time they got to their fame, they realized there has to be more to this. Like, though there was one story I heard from, I think it was Tom Brady, greatest quarterback. Sorry, I'm not a football person, so forgive me if I get this wrong. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And I heard this story somewhere where he said, like literally from him, saying, I won so many Super Bowls, so many trophies, so many awards, um, breaking records like no tomorrow. Such a huge fan base, huge, like the amount of success he had in football, probably more than more than I mean, it was historic, is historic. And he got to the height of his career, and he looked at himself in the mirror, or I'm just saying this, it wasn't a mirror, but he was, reflecting on his life and where he was, and thought to himself, if this is all there is, I've gotten everything I've ever worked for and wanted to obtain. Is this it? Like, I'm not, like what else is there to gain? Like, is that the end of it? Like, where does my life go now? And this even with there's a rapper called NF, Nathan something is his name. Sorry, I don't remember his last name. Um, I mean, he's open about his too, but there's actually a song he wrote, and in it, he actually put something that was similar to that. Where it was like he he was super famous when there was a song, or there was an album he put out called Mansion, and it was everywhere, like all over the radios, like it was everywhere. Okay, it was one of those one hit wonder songs. Although he wasn't a one hit wonder, he has a lot of great music, but um when that song came out, he had like the height of what any artist strives to get to, which is like all eyes on you, all the world looking at you. You're on the world stage. Everyone sees you. Okay, which is, I'm sure it's a crazy feeling. He had that, and it got so overwhelming that he had to step back for a bit and like pause. This was even similar to what happened with Mendez, if you remember him. And I know he's still doing music too. And I mean, if you look him up, see what happened to him too. Like he's doing some great things now. I don't know a lot about what he's doing, but I know that he actually turned towards God and stuff too, which is great. But anyway, um, and anyway, going back to NF, and he said, um, if this is it, in the song that he wrote, if this is it, then I don't know. I don't know what else there is. Um, he's like, I'll never have that same opportunity again. I don't know what's next for me. Um, so yes, going back to my little pencil thing, I thought that's what I wanted. I got it, and man, was I disappointed. And then you look for the next thing. These ideas of things that we want promise us the world, even literally being on a world stage. And when you get there, you're just disappointed every time. It's like, why do we continue doing stuff like that? Like, do we want to be unhappy? Like, I don't think anyone wants to be unhappy, but we still follow things that are going to make us unhappy in hopes that when we get there, it will. We just choose for ourselves, hey, that's going to make me happy. And then it doesn't. So, um, there was something I wanted, and I got it, and I felt so ashamed. And when you and again, this is why I was saying, think about the things that you've done, okay, and things that you've done that were good, not good. Um, But think of like the worst thing, okay? And only this is probably only something that you know yourself, and you between you and God would know. And when it hits you, the guilt hits you. You're like, oh my gosh, like what is this? Um, and this was again how I had said led me to throwing this out. And I said, I believed in you, God. I trusted you, and I've never heard you respond back. I've never heard your voice. I've never seen your hand in my life. I've seen nothing but failure, no success whatsoever, never being lifted up. Anytime I feel like I'm trying to come up, which is like happened with the Funko Pop thing for me, I got dropped to the floor. Okay. And at the time, that's what I was thinking and seeing. And now that I look back now, it was by um, um, God's will to not allow those things to succeed because it's not where He wanted me. Instead of fighting with my going against my free will and making me do what He wanted me to realize it on my own and come to Him of my free will. And this isn't just like a angry puppeteer in the sky. This is somebody who loves us, who literally gave His own son for us. And anyway, so yeah, I tossed the Bible out. This is when I was still in college, and I think I was still in college at this point. Went to school, spent the whole day there, whatever. My sister calls me and she says, "Hey, I have this crazy thing to tell you about." Um, I mix up the order of these events sometimes, but let's say this is what happened first. So anyway, we have a conversation, and this was around the time where we were like deep into the new age spirituality stuff, tarot cards, um, angel numbers, past life meditation, all of that stuff. Okay, anything you could think of. Maybe not like Ouija boards or anything like beyond that, but things that looked nice and attractive, and things that promised, spiritual help and light workers, angel helpers, all that weird, funky stuff that's still pretty big now today, and all of that. And still, there was no success or no growing or things that like they were going to give you happiness, but then when you think that you got there, it wasn't what you wanted, what you expected it to be, and didn't bring you the happiness that you had felt like you were promised the idea would give you. She had an experience where, and she actually wrote a song about this. She's a singer songwriter artist, and she wrote a song called "Guided" because of it. Um, actually, no. Anyways, but she did write a song about this around the same time, and she was dealing with kind of a similar thing as I was. She was so angry and frustrated, and she wanted was the truth. And this is something I talked about in the last episode about, everybody wants truth or seeking truth. Would you rather be in truth, or would you rather be ignorant and happy in, just having peace, but not really having peace? There's always unsettling feeling of like, things just don't feel right. She was walking in Toronto, and I think she said, she was getting off the bus. She was walking down one of the streets or something, and she was praying in her head or out loud, saying like, "God, where are you? Where's the truth? I need to know the truth. I can't have this deception, these lies, these the number and all that stuff. Like, what is going on? I don't understand." Stranger out of nowhere walks up to her. And she was still saying things like, "God, I need you. I need to see you." Stranger out of nowhere walks up and says, "I'm here. You asked for me and I'm here. And anyway, there's a little bit more to it. And you know what? Maybe I'll have her on the podcast and we'll talk about that a little bit more. I don't want to be the one that's talking about her testimony, but anyway, I just wanted to give you that little bit of idea. Anyway, that happens. That's what I'm hearing. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I just am so convicted. I'm like, you're telling me that all this time I thought he was gone. You know, you hear the stories about what he's done in the Old Testament and the powerful ways that he delivered his people. He doesn't do that stuff anymore. He's like shut himself off, or he just simply doesn't exist, and those stories were all lies. What, like, hearing that completely like broke everything. All my belief systems, everything that I was searching for and seeking for, everything just broke. And I told her about the Bible thing, and I was like, you know what, I it's like strange the coincidence of timing, but I threw out my Bible this morning, and then she was like, "No, what are you doing? Like, you better hope that's still there when you get home." Because I think this was around garbage day, and my parents might have taken the out, and it would have been gone. Um, anyway, I was so ashamed, scared, the fact that I did that, and I did not think God was happy with me, and that I felt like I was not worthy of any forgiveness whatsoever. And when I got home, Bible was there. Got home, Bible was there. I was like, yes, please, thank you. But I was honestly, I know I'm laughing right now, but I was crying. Okay. And this is something, I don't think I've told this to anyone. Maybe I've told this to my sister. I've told anyone this. I cried. Um, I went home. I mean, and then I didn't really do anything immediately, but I went upstairs into my bedroom. I I cried. I cried out. I wasn't just crying randomly like a oh, I was crying like that. But quietly because I didn't want anyone to hear, and I was praying to God. I'm like, God, why? Why did I do this? I can't believe it. And honestly, like, I don't deserve forgiveness. I'm like filthy. I'm hideous. Like I don't deserve to be with you. I don't deserve to go to heaven or have eternal life or any of that. But I knew that I needed him because there was no other way. When you feel so far gone and you feel that, and you know, I don't say feel, you know that it, you know it, you've you're beyond fixing. You can't fix yourself. You've already done something that broke yourself. You need help, and the only person that I knew in that moment that could help me was God. And I said, God, you know, if you could find it in you to forgive me, if you could please forgive me. I don't even know if it's possible to forgive me after this. Please, either let me know, please forgive me. I don't think I can go on from this after knowing what I've done to you. And this wasn't like this wasn't like something where I was a danger to myself, but in my heart and my spirit, I was like, I'm gonna live the rest of my life regretting this, and knowing that I hurt God, and that he'll never forgive me because I don't deserve it. And man, I don't remember what I opened up Google, and I literally searched the question saying, can I be forgiven? Or something like that. Brought me to one of those like question and answer pages or websites. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. And it was literally like as if the message like came to my face and like smacked me in the face into my brain, into my heart, everything. And it said, "You are forgiven. Learn the lesson and move on." I can't describe the feeling because it was almost indescribable when I seen that. I seen that message and I just, for the rest of the night, just cried, bawling. And I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I knew right then, from then on, that I was never going to go back to the way things were. I was never going to be perfect, but I knew that I was forgiven and that God saved me. Like, sure, yes, physical life, if you want to see it that way, but in your heart, there's more. You're not just your physical body, you have a soul. Okay. And God saved my soul that night. He 2,000 years ago drove the bus into the gate that his son was sitting on, took out that momentum in order to stop the bus on his son, Jesus, so that 2,000 years later, when that happened to me and I defied him in that way, he would forgive me and rescue me. And my life has been different ever since. Um, yeah. I would like to try and end this on something that feels a little more happier, I guess. But honestly, that was a happy thing. I thought it was done. It was almost as if spiritually I was like, I'm dead. Like there's nothing more for me. I felt like NF and I felt like Tom Brady at that moment where I was like, I have everything I ever asked for and wanted and did everything that I ever wanted and asked for and completely went against everything that I ever learned from you. I was born and raised Catholic, went to church every Sunday, went to a Catholic school and went against all of that. But he still forgave me. And since then my heart's been for God. It's been silent. It's not something that I shouted out proclaiming to the world, like um there's this thing that is much in there's a few places in the Bible where this is actually spoken of, but I'm going to read it here. So in Luke 12, enter. Of course, the Wi-Fi is being a little slow right now. I don't know if this was the parable of the talents or if it was talking about something else, but it's on the concept of whoever's given more will be expected. There was also another parable or another comparison of Jesus talking about the tongue. Control it. It's like a little piece of a boat, like the rudder of a boat, and even the slightest turn can send the boat crashing. So you need to learn to control your tongue. So the more, where is it? Verse 48. Here we go. Okay. So the servant who knows the master's will, Luke 12 verses 47, 48. This is a whole parable about being watchful and, waiting for your master to come back. He entrusted you with responsibilities and stuff, with the expectation that you're going to do them, because you naturally, that's the person that you serve. It's kind of like your job. You get to do a job and the expectation is you're going to do the job you got hired for. So the servant wants will be beaten with many blows, but the one who does not know and does things deserving punishment will be beaten with few blows. From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. From the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. In instances like this, uh, when that mirror hasn't been placed in front of you and you don't know what you're doing is good or bad, you're going to be judged less heavily. But the moment that it's been revealed to you, that you look in the mirror, you look at the 10 commandments, you have some sort of standard to compare yourself to, and you see it, you're disgusted, you're either going to accept that you're filthy or you're going to say no. Yeah, it's weak. um, so in that moment when I said my life changed ever since, I seen myself in the mirror and I was disgusted with what I saw. And I said, that's never going to be me again. And I'm going to rely and expect, because only you can help me with this, that you clean me up. You you help fix the things that I can't fix because I obviously can't. And I never, again, I want to be presented as clean. I want to be viewed as proper in front of God. And this is the concept of, cleaning your garments or like washing your hands before you eat kind of thing. Um, so now that this has been revealed to me, that I see the standard and I see what's right, what's wrong. And I'm still learning things, every day with God through prayer and reading the Bible, that there's certain things that are expected of us once we see the truth. And it's not in a condemning, it's like, I trust you so much. I love you so much. This is God, like the bus driver telling the children, or I guess, I love you so much that I'm going to show you. The bus isn't a good analogy, but just relationally, okay? God loves you so much and trusts you so much that he's going to reveal the truth to you if you seek for it, if you ask for it. And once you receive that truth, he doesn't expect you to just take it and run away, continue doing whatever you're doing for the rest of your life. Okay, he's expecting that there's going to be it's almost like an investment. If you know money and whatever, he entrusts some of that to you, so that when you've received it, you'll then take it and invest it to make more goodness. And when he sees that you've made more goodness, he's going to give you more. He's going to trust you with more, right? And this is truth, but there's also things like responsibilities and skills and ways that you can help others, right? Even Jesus, when he was here, um, during his ministry, when he turned 30, he got baptized by John the Baptist, and he called his 12 followers and appointed his 12 apostles to go out. He said something along the lines of, "It's not feasible that I do all the teaching and preaching." Um, Jesus sends out the 12 first. I'm going to see if I can find it here. Okay, so Matthew 10. If it loads, my internet's being very slow right now. No, 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 no. Okay. All right. So Matthew chapter 9. This isn't exactly what I was trying to look for, but it's close enough. Okay. So Matthew 9, verses 35 onwards to 38. Jesus went through the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. Okay. So this is the master entrusting the truth, God entrusting the truth and goodness to us so that we can see. Okay. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. They were blind. They didn't have the truth. They didn't know what was happening was good, bad. They didn't happening while they had their ailments, why they were, broke or whatever it was that they were dealing with. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." Meaning, okay, and this was a parable, right? It was hidden to those that weren't seeking for the truth, but were his followers, were able to receive the truth. And if they didn't, they would ask Jesus to show it to them later. So this means, right, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. So there are people looking for the truth. Okay, they're like a cabbage in the field, waiting for the farmer to come and pull them out. Okay, but they're just a cabbage. They don't know they're a cabbage. They don't know they're a carrot. They don't know if they're a weed. They don't know if they're a piece of grass. They're just there in the garden. They're just like, help me. I don't know what to do. Okay. They're like the sheep without a shepherd. They're sheep in a field and they're looking around. They're just lost. They don't even know they're a sheep. They don't know if what they're doing is good and right and wrong. So they need a shepherd to guide them. So and if you're a cabbage, the farmer needs to come in and get you, right? Otherwise, if he waits too long, that cabbage is going to turn to mush, right? So what we try to do is, right, but we can only do so much. We can't be good, right? As we had talked about before, we're not able to when we can't see ourselves. And if you're dirty and you're not looking at yourself in the mirror, right, there's going to be less expected of you, right? But it didn't say not beaten; it said beaten with less blows because there's less expected of you. So then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few." At the time, Jesus was the only one with the truth, right? He can't go out into the harvest and go to every single city, every single country, continent, all the millions of people that that are alive in the world. Think about today. If Jesus was here today, right? And let's say now was the time that he was born and not, during his second return where he comes in all his glory and he's just coming down in this singular body, right? He can teach and preach to all kinds of people, right? I mean, now, sure, we've got like internet and stuff, but imagine internet and Wi-Fi and all that stuff didn't exist yet, right? He can only teach and preach for one person, right? He gets tired. He has limitations because he limited himself by entering this body. From being God, being with God, being in the presence of God, um, and um, that's a topic for another time. The Trinity, three. So what he's trying to reveal to his followers is that I'm gonna expect you guys to help. I'm revealing all this truth to you so that you can go out and help other people to see the truth. So he says, "Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." He's hiring servants of the field to go out and get the cabbages, okay? Not to grab the weeds and bring them home so that the farmer can eat weeds or sell weeds to people. Bring the cabbage, okay? Bring on the cabbage. Now, Matthew 10. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal disease. Okay, he was prepared. He had all this time that they were following him. He was teaching them. They didn't realize what they were doing or what Jesus was doing with them or wanted from them, but he was preparing them by revealing the truth day by day by day by day. And this was the day that he gave them the authority to do what he was able to do. If you watch the Chosen, there's an episode on this, and Jesus in that says basically the same thing. He's like, it's not feasible for me to do all the teaching, all the preaching, all the healing, and that's why I've chosen you 12 to be my apostles to go out and do what he was doing, so that instead of one person having go place to place to place, and then he sends out 12 of his followers in all directions so that they can go out and reveal the truth in all the places of the world, right? And that's kind of what God expects from us, is that when we ask for the truth and he with day by day, and we're staying in relation with him. We're reading the Bible. Um, he's going to reveal these truths to us so that we can use it to reveal the truth to others, right? And if there's people that are unwilling to receive the truth, we don't get angry at them. We don't hate them. We don't judge them and say, you're poo poo. Okay. If there's people that hear the truth, those are the people you share it with. If there's people that don't want to, don't force it. Okay. So, so the whole point of me ranting on that. Damn, this is a long episode. Sorry, guys. I need to wrap this up. Maybe we can continue a little bit more about it later. That's the whole point of having episodes. So, yes, my life changed ever since. We can talk about that a little bit more, maybe in another episode. But basically, yes, since that time, my life has never been the same. I've been pursuing and seeking out God and walking with Him and praying. It doesn't mean your life is immediately perfect. He comes to you where you are, kind of like the parable of the son that that wasted his inheritance when he left his father's house, and his other brother was staying with the father. Lost all his inheritance, right? Eventually became homeless, so he found work working for a farmer, and he was so hungry where he desired to eat the food of the pigs that he was feeding. So he was like, you know what? I remember my father, his servants, they got fed. They got treated better than I did. They had a place to sleep. They had to eat. They got treated way, way, way better than what I'm doing here. And this is because of my fault here. So I'm going to go back to my father and I'm going to beg and plead for him to allow me to be a worker for him. And on the way, the father when he saw him coming up the road, he didn't wait for him to get to the house. He ran out. He ran out, hugged his son, and gave him gave him back what he lost. Gave him a cloak, necklace, I think, or something. But the whole point of it was he rejoiced and he came out to him to meet him where he was. Right? The son wasn't magically better. He was garbage. He was poo poo. Okay. He came back to the father so that he could become a servant, and instead he said, "No, you're my son." Right? I don't desire you to be my servant. I don't desire you to be under my feet. You're my son. You always have been. You were lost and now you're found. Let's rejoice and we're going to have a feast. So, at that time, when I was able to retrieve this and all that stuff happened, and my life never changed. My life has been changed ever since. God met me where I was. I went on that website. I found that thing said you're forgiven, learn the lesson and move on. Was the first step, the first event that happened where God came to me, hugged me. Okay, so I'm gonna stop it there. We're like literally an hour and a half. Uh, there's more details and like little things that I'd love to definitely talk about, but that's gonna have to be another time. And it's also like almost 11:30. Guys, I know that was a little bit longer, a little bit heavier. I wasn't anticipating even talking about this. I know it's part of my testimony and everything. There is more to it, but that's gonna have to be it for now. So thank you guys. God loves you. Jesus loves you. And I will see you guys next time. Have a good night. Remember, again, my name is Joshua Colucci. And thank you for being with us at Toilet Table Podcast. We'll see you later. Peace.